Hello. Going to do a quick class on knife size and how that relates to throwing qualities of the knife. Small knives, medium knives, large knives, then meat cleavers, which I just put in here because I like to throw these. Small, medium, large. Small knives, like this this knife made for throwing. I used to have 3 of these. This is the only one I could find. That's a drawback to small knives. They're easier to lose. Seriously. Or these cheap dollar store variety kitchen steak knives, paring knives. Very lightweight, cheap, small. They're not going to tear up a target too much. I guess if you have to throw shorter ranges, typically like indoors, you're going to want to use a smaller knife. It just won't tear the target up much. You don't want to be throwing something like this. Big knives indoors, unless you've got a lot of room and nothing valuable around your target, because these do a lot of damage. These do too, but on a smaller level. So these are smaller knives suitable for shorter ranges. They don't tear the target up as much. Typically, I don't know your reasons for throwing knives, but if you're going to carry the knife and your concealability is an issue, smaller knives are easier to conceal and carry, unless you don't mind walking around like Crocodile Dundee with a giant Bowie knife strapped to your backside or waist. Whatever your situation is. Smaller knives. Generally shorter ranges, do not tear up the target as much. Easier to conceal, if that is an issue with you. Easier to carry. Or it could be just a backup. Could be a backup knife, whatever. We'll skip the medium for now. We'll go to large knives. Pretty much the opposite of the smaller knives. These are suitable for longer ranges. You can throw these farther than you can one of these, and they do a lot more damage to the target. I mean, these knives weigh about 2 pounds or so. They'll tear a target right up, whatever you're throwing at. Obviously, something like these would not be that easy to conceal, if that's an issue. But larger knives will tear up a target really fast. These ones will. They're more suitable for outdoor throwing, and they have longer range. A compromise between the small is what I would say medium-sized knives. These are all fixed blade. These actually throw pretty far. They're pretty good throwers, these medium-sized blades. And they're cheap. They'll do, a relative amount of damage to a target. More damage than a smaller knife, less than these extra large knives. So you got to think about what your throwing situation is, what size of knife to get, and if you're going to be carrying the knife, things to consider. Now, I will say that's not just the size of the knife. Honestly, the weight actually has a lot to do with how much it tears up a target and how far you can throw it effectively. And in that case, this railroad spike knife is actually quite heavy. It feels like it weighs at least 2 pounds. This is actually fairly light. Very solid, full-tang knife, all of these are. This is substantially heavier than this. So, the weight, you can see why. Look at the handle. That's where all the weight is. This is a very good thrower. It's a relatively soft steel, this railroad spike knife, because railroad spikes are made out of high carbon steel, but it's high carbon steel for a railroad spike, not high carbon steel for a knife. Two different things, grades. So the weight of the knife, which usually translates into the thickness of the knife itself, which you can see the difference here. It's pretty obvious. This knife's actually pretty heavy. Not much to look at. This knife actually, honestly, is one of my best throwing knives. This giant bowie. So that's really about it. Smaller knife, I'll sum it up at the end of the video. But you're going to want to take into consideration what you're doing while you're throwing knives. You know, if it's just a hobby, like myself, I have a variety because I like to switch it up. It puts a challenge to switch up throwing something silly like this. I don't know, it's not silly actually. Or something like this. And once in a while, if I really want to kind of get destructive, this giant meat cleaver, which is kind of, I consider this kind of half knife, half hatchet. This thing throws crazy and will tear a target up big time. The only drawback with this is really you have to hit the target with this point. You throw it really hard. If it hits like that, sometimes it'll stick, sometimes it won't. But you're going to want to hit it like this to get it to stick. Maybe I'll make some videos on throwing things like meat cleavers and tomahawks and add this to the course, but right now I'm going to stick just to knives. So maybe next summer I'll do tomahawk and meat cleaver axe throwing if you really want to get your Viking on or whatever. Alright, I'll sum this up into bullets. File, I don't know, I think I already covered this, but if you throw multiple knives at the same target, you're going to wind up striking the knives, and it will put nicks in the blade, ding marks, that you're going to want to file and dull them up so they don't catch. They will, the ding marks in the blade from other knives striking it when you're throwing can cut you more than the edge. So that's why I always keep the file with my throwing knife set, just to touch them up now and then. That's really all I can come up with on knife size when it comes to what you want to use to throw with. So, thank you. Dismissed. Take care. Go practice throwing knives.